Alrighty, here we go. Doing another video capture here in my adventures of the Advanced Cicerone exam. Early days still. What I've been doing lately is kind of taking the syllabus from level 2 when I took it over a year and a half ago to the latest version of the level 3 Advanced Cicerone Syllabus. So I'm comparing the syllabus from what I did to this next challenge, and I'm going one section at a time and comparing them all to try to outline all the knowledge areas, but with an emphasis on highlighting what's definitely new, topics that weren't in the previous syllabus, so I can wrap my head around the knowledge studying strategy that I'm going to have. So today's topic is on section 3 in the outline, titled Beer Flavor and Evaluation. You'll see here it has 5 sections. There's taste and flavor, there's normal beer flavors, specific beer flavor compounds, other beer flavors, and also the tasting exam format. So my emphasis is really focusing on just for the written exam, but this is going to be relevant either way because the knowledge for that will probably be partially involved in the written exam. So let's take a look at the outline here specifically for the different portions of the overall exam: the written exam, the oral exam, the tasting exam. So this section, beer flavor and evaluation, overall is 22.5%. But if you look at the written exam column here, it's only 7.5% overall for the written exam on this section. Most of it is critical for the tasting exam. But what I do here is I always try to rebalance the numbers here, specifically focusing on the written exam. So what does this really mean? This section is going to count for about 10% of the written exam. So it's the smallest of the 5 sections, but it's pretty important topics regardless. So let's dig into this a little bit more. Still talking about my mindset of passing scores. So knowing overall, 80% is what you need once you've finished all 3 of these exams, but you need a 75% on tasting or higher. So for myself, tasting exam has probably been the more challenging for me. And so what I'm going to be doing is assuming I'll only get a 75 and then kind of figure out, well, what kind of scoring do I need on the written exam overall? So I have 3 scenarios here. The first is if I ace the oral exam, there's 2 oral exams, I still need a 79% on the written exam. If I kind of get just 50% on the oral exams, I would need an 85% on the written exam. And if somehow I bomb the oral exams, I theoretically would need a 92% on the written exam. So good to know. With that, let's just dive right into the syllabus. So here's what we have in the Advanced Cicerone Syllabus for this section. It starts off with taste and flavor. How do we perceive flavor? And they talk about 2 different ways to perceive aroma: orthonasal, retronasal. And it goes on to taste. The established tastes here are sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. And again, so far this is apples to apples, the same as the level 2 syllabus. Continuing on, we have the emerging of fat. Then they talk about the tongue myth. So it's good to know that historically we've thought different parts of your tongue had different sensors, and part of it for bitter, part of it for sour, etc. And they're basically just shedding here that that's a myth. It's not actually true. Moving on to mouthfeel, we have the same characterizations here. We have body, carbonation, astringency, creaminess, and alcoholic warming. Now, variations in taste perception. So there's different things that can make someone have more or less sensitivity to certain tastes and flavors. That's genetical and biological differences of people. Their personal or behavioral factors, such as their habits. Do they smoke? Do you drink a lot of coffee, like myself? Do you have certain food preferences, exposure to different cuisines, different spice profiles? All that stuff can shape your tasting ability. But also your mental and psychological factors. So your state of mind. Are you able to focus on what's in front of you or not? Are you distracted? Are you stressed out? All these things have an impact on your ability to detect taste and flavors. Moving on to beer evaluation, I talk about the temperature. So beer reveals more flavor as the temperature goes up. And they even give you a range here. It should be between 38 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll notice when you get a cup of beer, if it's cold, you don't get much out of it. But as it warms up, the carbon dioxide is leaving solution and it brings all those volatile aromas with it. So it's good to know about that. What are the components of evaluation? The appearance, the aroma, the taste, the mouthfeel, and then also the finish and aftertaste. So techniques. And again, these are all the same in level 2, level 3. The different aroma techniques, the distant sniff, the drive-by sniff, the short sniff, the long sniff, and the covered sniff. And while they do talk about what these sniffs are, it's probably going to be very important to know when you would use each one. What are the pros and cons of these? Then talking about using a consistent background if you're assessing the color and clarity of a beer, and letting that beer reach all parts of your tongue during tasting, and that knowing the flavor perception continues after swallowing. Moving into the normal beer flavor section, we talk about malt and grain flavors. They were pale, golden, light amber, amber, brown, black. The different colors here of the grains and the different flavor profiles that they provide. Everything from uncooked flour to white bread to bread crust to graham cracker to toastiness, caramel. You'll see right here, as you go darker, you get different, richer flavors and aromas coming out of these grains, all the way to roasted burnt coffee. Yum. Here we go. So now we're talking about hops. It starts off with the same thing, knowing about the bitterness, flavor, and aroma effects of hops. The traditional regional hop traits. So this is high level: American, Australian, New Zealand, English, and then German Czech. Now the new section, the first yellow in this walkthrough, familiarity with flavors of specific hop varieties from each region. So not just knowing American hops have these attributes here, but knowing which hops have which attributes. That's going to be definitely something important to know. Fermentation flavors. Saccharomyces fermentation. Okay, so we're going to talk about lager yeast, and ale yeast. A little more depth here in ale yeast: American, English, Belgian, Weizen. Then there's acidic fermentation: lactic acid, acetic acid, Brettanomyces fermentation. And then here we go into specific beer flavor compounds. So a lot of these were in the level 2 syllabus, but wherever something new stands out, I've highlighted that in yellow. So in the aldehydes section here, acetaldehyde and transtwnonenal were there, but this isobutyraldehyde, or grainy, was not. In the esters, we had isoamylacetate, and knowing the range of flavors associated with other esters was there, but now ethyl acetate and ethyl butyrate are new. In organic acids, we had acetic acid, isovaleric acid, and lactic, but now we have butyric. In the phenols, you had 4-VG, or 4-vinyl guaiacol, and knowing the range of flavors associated with other phenols, but now you have 4-EP, which is 4-ethylphenol. You have chlorophenol. You have vanillin. These are all new. In the sulfur-containing compounds, you had DMS, H2S, light-struck, but now you also have caddy, or 4-MMP, which I'll try to pronounce this, 4-methyl-4-mercaptopentan 2,1. Oh my goodness. Then you have mercaptan, or methanethiol, and SO2, sulfur dioxide. These are all new. Then you have diacetyl, but then you also have other compounds. So metallic was there, but now you have damascenone, geosmin, or earthy, and cork taint, or TCA, and it looks like it's trichloroanisole. New topics. And other beer flavors continues here. Oxidation, aging flavors, very in-depth here. Oxidation is very important to know a lot about. Diminished hop flavor and aroma, decreased bitterness, damascenone, malt shift, paper or wet cardboard, waxy or lipstick-like, and sherry-like. Then autolysis, astringent and tannic. And then here, this is probably the most important slide so far because this is tasting exam format, the off flavors, right? You'll notice there's a lot of yellow here. We have acetaldehyde, acetic acid, diacetyl, DMS, light struck, and trans-2-nonenal, which were in level 2. But now they're doubling the number here. They're adding chlorophenol, H2S, isovaleric acid, lactic acid, mercaptan, metallic. Lots of more off flavors to become familiar with. And then this is more relevant for the tasting exam, but you have style discrimination still, but instead of having a sample of beer be one of two possible selections, the cup of beer in front of you, or there'll be multiple cups, but for each cup, it will be one of any 4 beer styles that will be the choices you have to select from. And then there's 2 new sections, the consumer focused description, where you're going to be giving sensory analysis of an unknown sample, but giving 5 specific evocative flavor descriptors to convey the key flavors. Now, this is the describing a beer to the customer. And then similarly, you have to do that same sensory analysis, but giving a complete descriptive analysis of the flavor profile of the beer, covering the appearance, aroma, flavor, and mouthfeel. But here, focusing on technical terminology. So this is all new for the tasting exam of Advanced Cicerone. It's a whole different ballgame. And that's it. So this syllabus was actually a lot easier to digest compared to some of the other sections. Not as much extensive content to scroll through, not as many pages, but important topics here. So my summary notes here are basically that, yeah, sure, it's less weight on the written exam. It's about 10% of the test. And there's less differences when I'm comparing the syllabuses, level 2 to level 3, than I had to do for other sections here. But we have to know specific hop variety flavors from each region. We have to know more off flavors. Instead of 6, we have to know 12. Similar with beer flavor compounds, we have to know 26 instead of 13. So these numbers both have doubled. And on the tasting exam, there is going to be an emphasis on consumer-facing descriptive skills and technical-facing descriptive skills. And that style discrimination portion of the tasting exam is going to have 4 choices for every cup instead of 2. So there you have it. I mean, that's the section. I mean, that's section 3. I've done 1 and 2. And then I'm going to keep this bus rolling and tackle the next 2 sections and then circle back and really start studying.